What are you doing, Tina?
What are you doing, Jenny?
We are two women living our best lives in the Black Hills of South Dakota, sharing our stories, laughs, and projects happening in the garage.
Whether you're looking for a bit of joy, a spark of creativity, or just a comforting voice, you can find it here. Unicorn!
You hammer down.
Hammer down.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah, that's right. There's crack-a-lacking happening.
Let's crack-a-lack right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah, season
Okay.
1, episode 6. Boom!
Boom!
Amy Rose, Jenny, Tina.
Don't forget to clap.
She did.
Oh, I did already.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you take your meds?
Yeah, I did. I totally did.
Can you imagine if both Jenny and I weren't paying attention to
Oh
you?
my
Oh,
gosh.
my Lord.
We're talking about ADD.
Yeah.
I have it bad. I take medication. I have for 20 years.
And what's interesting is the kid's dad also has it, and both kids do. So I'm this pillar over here, and anytime there needs to be a plan that involves the kids when they are not with us, it is like C-spot run. I have to. Here's Dick. Dick needs to know where the car is. Dick asks Jane, where is the car? Jane says, Dick, the car is in the parking. Like it, you can't be implied. You can't ask an open-ended question. You have to lead them to the water.
It's almost like it reminds me of that little image that you can insert in a text where the cowboys are herding all the cats
Yes.
through the field.
Yes.
It's a little bit like that.
Can you teach this to Mike?
Yes. Yes, I can. I have a lot of tricks that will wrangle the cat that is Jenny.
Meow.
Yes. We can do this.
More of a free spirit.
I'm a free spirit.
Yeah, but you're a free spirit with a plan.
She has a list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
I take Sundays off. I don't take my ADD meds on Sunday. And how do you feel about that, Tina?
It's as long as I know, she will ask in the morning, what are we doing? What does the day entail? Because if it's something that she has to focus on, then she will take her med.
Yeah.
If it's just willy-nilly, like we're putting plants in the ground, like there's no harm, no foul, like just, whatever. I'm like, yeah, go for it. Check out. And it is la, 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 la.
My staff actually can tell too, and they love it when I'm unmedicated because
She's
I'm
so funny.
much fun.
Oh, she's
I am
so much
fun.
fun.
And I am,
Are you like the mom on Shameless?
yes, I'm sort of,
She's like
I'm all over the place.
all over the place. Like, okay, what time? Oh, it's 10:30. We should order lunch. We should let's DoorDash something. Like, let's do that. Oh, is anybody free at 1? Let's go get our nails done. Like, blah 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 blah. And then, oh, did you guys call? Okay, you're going over here to do this client, and I'm gonna do this client. And oh, did anybody? We have paper coming, right? You guys ordered copy paper.
Anybody want to go to the greenhouse?
Does anybody want to go to the greenhouse?
Should we pick out a plant?
Let's pick out a plant for the office. Oh, let's go to Victoria's Garden.
Do you guys want to go to a movie?
Yeah, we should. It's
So
really
bad.
nice out. We should walk the dogs. Anyway, okay, what were we doing? Oh, yes, court-appointed guardianships. Okay, sorry.
We don't have time for any of all that.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yes, for sure.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
But I ended up going to my doctor when the kids were little, and the kids are 18 months apart. So at one point I had 2 kids in diapers, and I remember crying literally bawling in her office and being like, I can't go to the kitchen 9 times and forget why I went there anymore. And she was like, okay. And so, I did the testing, and oh my gosh, I'm off the chart ADHD.
I think I might be as well.
And so started taking meds, and honestly, it was a complete game changer. ADD medicine is a stimulant, but I don't feel that way. I just feel like it downshifts me into a lower gear where I can actually hear myself think, and I can follow through with thoughts and plans and dreams and goals and all of that. So I believe in better living by chemistry for sure.
I need to look into this.
Yeah, no, you should. I mean, if that's something that you struggle with, you should definitely talk to your doctor about it.
Yeah. I could have a 20-minute conversation with you and not remember anything you said.
Seriously.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the kids, if I have a list like of more than 2 things, they both will ask me to text them. Can you text it to me so I don't forget? I'm like, it's 3 things. It's take out the garbage, feed the dogs, and whatever.
Yeah.
One other thing.
But it's changed their lives too because, we didn't get them tested until they were probably, Henry when he was probably 15, Claire when she was probably 11. And I can't even tell you the difference that it's made in their academics.
Oh, huge.
So, just night and day difference in how they show up for their jobs, which is school.
Amazing.
They've always been good kids and they're always good students, but it makes it easier for them now having the diagnosis and having the medication. It makes it easier for them to focus on what is in front of them rather than, sitting in chemistry and they're worried about advanced English already, which is 3 periods away. They can be present to do just this class and then move on.
Yeah.
And homework and, that's probably the biggest factor for me watching them is the number of missing assignments. They would be in the dozens and dozens, like 30, 40 missing assignments across all classes within the first semester. And we would look at this and go, okay, you have 8 missing in this class, 12 missing in this class, 4 missing in this class. Now, when you go in there, it's like, oh, I have 1 missing over here. This one's being regraded, and all the other classes are good.
Game changer. And poor kids, I tell them, I'm like, you didn't have a chance. Listen, the deck was stacked against you. Your dad and I both have this. And I also think it's funny because now we're both in relationships with people who are highly organized, don't have ADHD, and who keep all the shit straight. And it's been a game changer for both of us, I think, and sometimes Terry and I will text on the side and we'll be like, we just work here. Like whatever Tina and Maggie say is fine. Like let them be in charge of the organization or the scheduling or whatever. So a lot of times Terry and I aren't even involved. It's Tina and Maggie that are taking the lead to put plans together. And
especially like at the beginning of summer, once the school year ends, Maggie and I will sit down with a calendar and say, okay, what we know, and I color code everything, like on a paper desk calendar. Our weeks are highlighted in orange, Jenny's favorite color, and Terry and Maggie's weeks are highlighted in yellow. And so I can visually see when we have them, when they're at their dad's,
vacations.
And then if there's any crossover, like Terry and Maggie are leaving 2 days into our week and, what have you, we go through all of that so we can have a 3 or 4 month plan.
I have no desire to go through all of that. You're doing a great job.
But it stresses me out knowing that it's not right. But I don't want to do it.
You know what's so funny? At the beginning of January, when it was the new year, I come into the office one afternoon. I'd been at the hospital for some appointments. I come in, and here's Tina and Maggie, and they've scheduled meetings, like in our conference room, with both kids to talk about 2025 goal setting and planning. Terry and I didn't even know anything. We were like, okay, great, good job, good job. Like that's an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, we need to reset the tone coming out of Christmas vacation. Like here, we need to shift some focus in a few areas. Like here are some accountability parameters.
What are your goals?
What
is it that you are struggling with? Or I don't know, whatever you said. I wasn't even at the meeting.
Tina's like the dad in the Progressive commercials. Too many throw pillows.
That's right. That's right. Mayhem like me.
Totally. Totally.
So what do you want to do today?
What
should we do?
What do
I'm
you
like,
want to talk about?
I'm a kid coming over to play. What do you want to
Yeah.
do?
Well, I have something. We
Shoot.
got this awesome voicemail from one of our followers. We set up this toll-free number where people can call in and leave a comment or ask a question. And, you know, our hope is to feature some of those on the podcast. And this woman, Liz, we listened to it in the morning together in our office, and we both were in tears. And I think I reached out to her. She said she would be honored to have her message featured on our podcast.
That's great.
And so I think maybe we should listen to her message and talk a little
talk
bit
about that. Yeah.
our coming out journey and, you know, what that was like.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, ladies. My name is Liz, and I'm from Tennessee. I'm a 50-year-old former high school English teacher who was forced to retire due to some ongoing health issues that happened to me after I got COVID in 2020. So I am not really retired, but I'm calling it retired. And I found you girls on TikTok during a time in my life where my son had just come out, and it was not a great experience for him, and he decided to go no contact with my husband and me for about a year to work through everything. And it was the hardest time of my life, and now everything is better. We are closer than we ever were, which Austin and I were always inseparable. So that year of no contact was the worst year of my life. But I just wanted you ladies to know that your videos brought me so much hope and happiness during a time where I wasn't sure if I could go on from day to day. And you two lifted my spirits and just gave me hope that there could be happiness for my son one day. So I didn't intend to get emotional, but you girls are ladies, women, are just amazing. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for spreading your message of love and happiness. And my goodness, I don't think there's anything that Tina can't do. And Jenny, you are a wonderful support right there, spotlighting everything. And I just love it. Thank you. Please continue to share. I actually reached out to you in a message, and you two were wonderful. You messaged me back and invited me to call and talk to you with my son anytime. And I just want you to know how much that meant to me. I think you ladies are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep living that unicorn life. Sending all the love from Tennessee. Love you, girls. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So her son comes
Powerful.
out.
Yeah.
And things don't go well.
I remember several months ago when she sent us the email about that situation, and I had seen the email before you did. And when I told you about it, and I was like, I want to respond to her. I mean, we try to respond to everybody, but this one was especially important. There's a lot of similarities, not necessarily for me in my story, but I think watching your story unfold and being in a traditional conservative state like South Dakota, her down in the South in Tennessee, and you can feel the emotion in her words in an email, and just telling her that we are here. We are so proud of you for supporting your son. If he has any questions, if you have any questions, like, we would love to jump on a call with both of you, with either of you, independently, whatever we can do to help. We are here for as a resource or just somebody to know that's in your same path, you know, that's walking your same journey. Excuse me. So when we got the voicemail a couple of weeks ago and recalling that exchange with her, I knew immediately that that's who it was before she even went into the story. And I think it's really important for you to share your story before I share mine.
Yeah.
And the reason being is you had just gone through a divorce and you have 2 kids, and, you know, my situation and my path was completely different. So I think there's a lot of people that your story will resonate with.
Yeah. And, you know, I think this is our why. This is part of our why. You know, since being together, even before social media, we get a fair number of messages throughout the year, usually from parents who have a child that is questioning their sexual identity. And those parents want their kids to meet us. And I think coming out at any age is a big deal. But I especially think for younger people, you know, every parent loves their kids to the moon and back, right? And wants to, most of the time, love and accept them and show them what life can look like later. You know, that there's, you know, a normalcy to our life together, that, you know, we are just like everybody else. We, you know, we have kids and sports and jobs and, you know, projects. And
lawns still need to be mowed. Cars still need to be fixed. Like it's, you know, we're not any different.
So it's like spreading that message of love, acceptance, but also support during a time that can be such a challenge, especially for young queer people who are, you know, going on that journey of self-discovery.
I feel, too, that from a generational perspective, our parents and the generations before, and it really probably started with our generation of it being on the front end of no longer taboo, no longer closeted, no longer secret, no longer a dark thing that you hide, that it was okay to be open about, to be in front of, to talk about, to live your truth, to own, you know, all of those descriptors. And the generation that is our parents, part of the mentality was, oh, I just don't want this to be a hard path for you.
Right.
You know, it's the protective nature. It's not just you as my child that I want to bubble wrap, but I want to bubble wrap you from everyone in the world, because they didn't have that modeled for them. They didn't see a lot of it. It wasn't talked about in their generation. So now I feel like who we are at this age and this generation kind of opened that door a little bit wider.
Yep.
We certainly didn't, you know, the Nancy Rosenbaums and is that right?
Yeah.
Is that how I say her last name?
Yep.
Yeah. It's people like that really paved the way, and we're now standing on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And
Nancy Rosenbaum, a huge LGBTQIA advocate, and she and her wife, Jenny, were the first gay couple to get married in the state of South Dakota.
Wow.
And she's actually great friends with Adam Lambert. And she's just this amazing little senior citizen lady who is so cool on so many levels, but really a pioneer and fought for gay rights and gay marriage, especially here. And I remember seeing her at a Pride event a couple years ago, and she said, "What you two represent is important, and you are role models for these younger queer people, and it's important for them to see that. It's important for you to have visibility to the younger generation, so they see that what life can be like."
And societally, we provide the stereotypical normalcy, right? We talk about budgets, we talk about grocery lists, we have all of the same fears and dreams and excitements and worries of any heterosexual couple, especially with kids.
Yeah.
So it's not lost on us, certainly within our own community, but the way that we represent like our love, I love her fiercely and so openly, and she does the same for me. We don't hide that. We don't shy away from it. We own. I'm so proud to call her my wife. I am so proud that this is the person that has chosen me. And I think the more that we can shed a light on that, it changes people's perspective instantly.
I think the world needs more love.
Sure.
You know, and I hope that that's what our example represents for people, because it is a rocky path. And I don't think coming out at any age is easy. You know, I came out in my 40s, and it was still a very uncertain, emotionally challenging time for me. And, you know, in my 40s, I felt like I had a good sense of self-identity. I, you know, knew who I was. I thought I knew. And, you know, I still look back on that time, and it was a wonderful time of falling madly in love with my soulmate, but it was also not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
How it was for you emotionally? Like, you showed up at that basketball game. Did you know then that you had an attraction to women?
Not really. And
Wow.
so, you know, I think that I guess I could say, if I look back now, because hindsight's everything, yeah, I think I knew on some deeper level that maybe wasn't completely conscious. But after I met Tina, it was game over. And, you know, part of me felt shocked. Like, how did I not get this about myself, you know, that this is who I am. And, you know, for the first years of our relationship, you know, people would say, well, you know, I shied away from the word lesbian. I shied away from the word gay. And I would say, I just love Tina. It wouldn't matter to me what she is. I just love her. And now I can say 7 years later, I am gay. I am lesbian. But I think that was me sort of still hedging, being like, I just love this one person and it wouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. But, you know, as we kind of grow into our identity, that's what I know. But in the beginning, so this is all, you know, happening to me. The basketball game happens. I have very strong feelings for this person. I'm basically stalking her, right? And, you know, there comes a time when, you know, so it'd been a few months and we hadn't told anyone or, you know, been public with anything. And sometimes you get hit with a love so big that you just can't keep it inside and you want the whole world to know. And I think I was very naive at that moment. And I wrongly assumed that everyone in my life and in my circle was going to be happy for me. And that is not what happened. I got pushback from my parents. They were not supportive in the beginning, and I think for the reason that you said, Tina, I don't think they were trying to be unsupportive. I think they were, I think my mom's exact words were, "That's a hard life." And I didn't I was bewildered by that. I was pissed off, and only to be followed by, I lost several friends throughout, the coming out process. And when they found out, and, you can just know what people are saying. Like, what is she doing? She's ruining her life. Like, now she's with a woman. Like, what are
they doing?
I don't know. But that, how people talk, right? And so I was really shocked about, and even people who were upset about the divorce being like, well, it looks to me like you're just being selfish, with being with Tina, or and some of those friendships have never recovered. I've never re-engaged with any of those folks, and I'm not talking like a ton of people, but probably 5 or 6 friends that I lost.
And people, those 5 or 6 people have never met me. They don't know anything about me.
Wow.
So to watch Jenny struggle with that, to feel judged in that way without truly taking the time to ask any questions, to meet the person, to see it for themselves, that's the most disappointing part for me, for her.
But after the pain of that, I would say that those people probably weren't meant to stay in my life.
Agreed.
And it's also taught me a lot about true friendship and true acceptance and true loyalty, and it was a hard lesson to learn. But at the same time, it's like all of the scenery sort of changed and the backdrop of my life sort of changed, and all in really wonderful ways. And, for anybody that really knows us, I mean, we are soulmates. We could spend 24/7 together and it would be great,
Not
and
get tired of it, not run out of things to talk about or feel pressured to talk about things. Just sit in silence and just enjoy the peace of one another.
Right.
So,
and I also can't discount good mental health care through journeys like that. I have an amazing therapist who has walked through, many a challenge with me. And I think having a sounding board like that is so helpful, So I just want to say that if anybody is going through something like that themselves, or with a child or a family member, engage some mental health care. Mental health is health, and
absolutely,
it's so important.
It's so important. There's no shame, and that's another thing is, we have all of these stigmas, these shameful things that we project on one another, and it's so not necessarily. It's the opposite. How healthy of a decision that you're making for yourself to go get an outside professional perspective. And a lot of times, you'll come home from your session that day and I'll say, how was how was Sarah? And you're like, it was great. A lot of times she'll just go and talk, and being in a safe place to talk out loud, she solves her own problem. It's not like you have to say 10 Hail Marys and 3 Our Fathers in order to get through this, I don't.
Yeah. And I think too, so I see my therapist every Monday morning at 8 a.m. And I love that time because it shows a commitment to myself and that I'm prioritizing my own mental health journey. 8 a.m. on Monday, great way to start the week. I don't know if you guys have ever woken up with the Monday morning dreads, like,
Oh, yeah.
And it just sets a tone for me for the week that is so positive. And I'll tell you, on Monday morning at 7:30, it's the last place I want to go. I'm dragging my feet the whole way there. I don't want to be there. I'm like, and at 9 o'clock, I'm like, that was amazing. It's like working out. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Good for me.
Emotional workout for sure.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I observed through the early part of our relationship with your core group of people is some of them knew who I was, so they were all in. Some of them maybe we had a common friend. It could have been my sister. It could have been, someone else in the community, that there was a common person or persons.
Right.
So there was a little kind of arm's length knowledge, but, a fair amount of trepidation. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, them being me. And then there were others that were the hard nose, right? And the people that approached it with cautious optimism, I think are some of the people that are the most all in now.
I agree with that. I think that's completely true. And I think also just witnessing being around us as a couple, there is no doubt by anybody that really knows us or has been around us that we are 100% meant for each other, and that this is something amazingly incredible.
Yeah. I feel one of the things that has taught people by being around us, there is a difference between loving someone and being in love with someone. I think that line gets blurred a lot, especially the deeper into a relationship, the more years you have under your belt. Right? There's a comfortability that happens, and maybe even a bit of taking for granted of your partner. That said, we are still at this 7, 8 years in. I am so in love with you.
Me too.
And there are new ways that I find to love you every day, and things that I learn and appreciate about you. Not just the way you care for me or those in our circle, kids, family, what have you, but watching the way that you navigate your world and care for yourself. Like, the perfect example is this is this Monday morning appointment has been a year and a half, 2 years. And I so respect that you do that for yourself.
I think it's an investment. I think it's an investment in my relationships with, our circle, with you certainly. But it's an investment in my business, in how I show up in the world, how full my cup is. And I can't imagine my life without it. I told my therapist, I was like, well, I'm a lifer. I'm just going to be here forever till we both go to the nursing home. Okay.
And that's okay.
I think it's totally okay. But, Liz and her message and reaching out to us in such a dark time, what was such a dark time for her, being so close to her son, we felt that so deeply. And, anytime we can be of support or lend a hand or an ear or just hold space, for those conversations, we are both 100% there for it.
And to know that she's not alone. I mean, it's unfortunately normal to go through something like that.
I've also had some tough conversations with friends of mine who have kids that are coming out who were having a really hard time with it. You know, who are like, Jenny, I just don't know if I can accept this. I don't know how I feel about it. And to be able to ask some of the right questions and get them thinking a little bit differently is also a huge gift. And I'm very honored that people trust us with that very tender, precious thing, you know?
Right.
So, you know, because for parents with kids, you know, some of the things I've heard are, you know, I wanted grandkids. I want, you know, I envisioned this life for my child that is now that's erased, like that there's going to be a new thing. And I always say, you don't know what the new thing is going to be. The new thing could be wonderful. And what is better than living your truth? And or also with parents who are like, my child is questioning, they don't know who they are. And I always say, what's the worst thing that could happen? You know? So maybe they're in a same-sex relationship for a while and it doesn't fit, and they're on the journey to figuring it out.
Yeah,
and isn't that great?
I don't know a lot of 16, 17, 18, 23, 27-year-olds that have a whole lot of life figured out yet.
Right.
Regardless of the topic.
Yeah.
And I feel, as a Christian woman, like I feel like I need to say right now that I'm actually just ashamed of those people that instantly judged you, and I'm so sorry that you experienced that, because I can't imagine being that person.
You know what?
And going to bed at night and being feeling good about that.
And it was hurtful at the time, but now I can honestly say I'm grateful. I am so grateful for those experiences, because it really opened my eyes to some of the stereotypes and some of the belief systems and some of the negativity that queer people experience. And so I'm really grateful for that abandonment experience and the pain that went along with it, because I think it allows me from a healed place to identify and to have a deeper sense of empathy and understanding with people who are going through it, like Liz and her son. And I get to meet them in a way that is much deeper than it would have been had those things not happened to me. So, you know, I'm a person of faith too, and I believe everything happens for a reason. And I think God put those people in my life and took them out of my life so that I could better identify and understand and be of service in this space of, you know, building this community and being a role model, you know, that we're a role model and a source of support. And, you know, we get messages all the time about, you know, I'm 25, but can you adopt me? You know, or I've lost touch with my family. They don't talk to me anymore. And I just feel like you guys are my new aunts. And, you know, I'm so humbled
You're my
by
mom
that.
now.
Yeah, you're my mom now. Yeah, we get that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And God loves you. He loves all of his children.
And that's just it. Like, you know, Jenny grew up Catholic. I grew up Lutheran, Missouri Synod Lutheran,
which is Catholic almost.
Yeah.
Almost, just a little less guilt.
Yeah. Not much though.
That's right. So we both have a very strong background in our own journey with faith and Christianity, and that was very foundational for our relationship. When Jenny and the kids moved in, I feel like the most inflammatory experiences that we have had as far as judgment from that segment of people, the Christian, the God does not see this way. You're
Marriage
going
is
to
between
hell.
a man and a
It's,
woman. Yeah.
the most inflammatory that we dealt with were our neighbors across the street.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Who, I think we're kind of fringe. I mean, there's your regular religions, and I feel like they're basement church kind of people. You know what I mean? Where it's so
It's a little extreme.
that, yeah, it's not a mainstream.
I remember, excuse me, I remember a day during the week. The kids had moved in. Jenny and the kids had moved in. I don't know, probably 6-8 months. You were there.
Yeah.
Summer day, Wednesday.
How does she remember that?
Doorbell rings, and I go answer the doorbell, and it's the neighbors from across the street. And I open the door, and you're kind of standing in the threshold, but there's a little bit of a gap, and they both, I won't say like aggressively pushed their way in, but they certainly felt welcome enough to come in. One of them went into the kitchen, and the other one went to a chair in the dining room and pulled it out and sat down and said, and she was in tears. And I said, what's wrong? Like, I thought somebody had been hurt. Like, they needed help. Their daughter was in an accident, whatever. And I said, what's wrong? Are you okay? And she said, I just don't know what we're going to do. We know you have that woman living here. And I said, Linda, her name is Jenny. And yes, she does live here. And did you have a question about that? Or I just don't, we have really enjoyed you as a neighbor. And then Vern piped up and came out from the kitchen and also pulled up a chair at the dining room table. So I sat down. And Vern says, I just don't know why you would intentionally choose to go to hell.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, wow, gosh, I'm really sorry that you see it that way, because my God loves me for who I am because he made me. The Jesus that I have a relationship with is proud of me and is proud of Jenny and these two kids and the way that we love and respect one another. And then he started quoting scripture, which is always my favorite. So I said, hold on a second. I reached behind me from the buffet table and I grabbed my Bible and I said, let me counter that with a little scripture of my own. So it became this kind of tit for tat.
Good for you.
And they continued to escalate. So I had taken my phone out and I started texting. You know how in your phone, when you open the messages, text message app, it has all your threads in there. So I just started at the top and said, call me now. And just started and then copy, paste. I bet I sent it to the first 7 or 8 people in my text threads, trying to get somebody to call to break the conversation. And it so happened that my sister was the one that called first. And I said, I apologize, I need to take this call. And they said, that's okay, we'll wait. And I said, no, you don't understand. This is a work call and I'm going to be on it for a while. I would be happy to continue the conversation another time, but I am going to have to ask you to leave. And they got up and they left and I answered the phone. It was, as I said, my sister, and she's like, is everything okay? And I said, yeah, I just, I explained the story to her, and she's like, we're at lunch break from, I'm in court. Like she was on a jury trial, and she's like, we're at lunch. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. And I said, I'll tell you the story later. So Jenny came home and I told her this story, and there were more than I care to count, and I'm sure more than they cared for me to admit, exchanges that were the best word that I can use is inflammatory. They just were never going to understand. And I think that's one of the lessons that it taught me is not every conversation deserves a response.
Correct.
You are going to find yourself in these differences of opinion where the other people are not listening to learn, they're listening to debate.
Right.
And look, I can debate until I will.
She won't quit
I
until
won't
she
quit.
wins.
I will win. But with people like that, it's not worth my energy. It's not worth the emotional energy. It's not worth my time.
And they thought it was completely normal to walk over to your house and come into your
Yes.
house
And it wasn't-
and say those things.
Yes.
And it wasn't the only
It wasn't
time.
the only time they came into the house.
Oh my gosh. What made them think that was normal or that was right?
Yeah, that's who they.
I'm so
that's who
sorry.
they
Trying
are.
to save your soul, Tina.
Yeah, you know.
They need their soul saved.
But you know, it kind of goes back to the old saying that I learned as a kid, Jenny.
What's that?
You can't polish a turd. You can rub and you can rub and you still have shit.
It's true.
It's true.
There's the title of our podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes you just have to
Yes.
chalk it up, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Can you talk about the conversation with your kids
Yeah.
about this?
So,
Good question.
you know, Tina had been over, but I have tons of girlfriends, right? You know, I mean, so Tina had been over to the house and we'd been spending some time together. And, you know, I would say that my experience with kids, my kids and all the kids, has been the most validating, positive experience ever because kids don't see that stuff. They are pure
They
love,
just love.
and they want you to be happy, you know? And so I think the biggest gift I gave my kids was a happy mom. And I remember the day we were in the car and I had just pulled in the driveway, so captive audience, right? They hadn't gotten out of the car. And I just turned around and I told them, I said, I want to tell you guys something, you know, and they're 3rd and 4th grade, so I'm putting it in terms they can understand. You know, I said, Tina's a, you know, and they love Tina. And I just said, Tina and I are more than friends. We're seeing each other. And it was crickets for a second. And then Henry was like, do you think she'll come over later and throw the football? Like
Totally.
literally it was no big
Didn't
deal.
miss a beat.
And how old were they?
3rd and 4th grade.
Okay.
So whatever, like 10 and 11 or something like that.
Yeah,
No.
I think younger
No.
than that.
Third grade is
like,
9.
Yeah.
9.
8, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, even as their friends found out, came out, like, it was just no big deal. Kids have been the best, I think, the best medicine for some of the,
Yeah.
you know, people that ostracized me through that process. And I think it's been
So,
positive.
because you were going through a divorce and then, so you had to break the news about the divorce and then, you know,
Yeah.
dating Tina.
And, you know, thankfully, we have wonderful kids. We really do. And
Amen.
they are the most loving, accepting, open humans.
With everybody.
Yeah.
Like not just me or us. That is who they are.
Love that.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it was positive on all fronts, you know, for the most part. And, you know, I think that my ex-husband had some feelings about it, of course. You know, how could you not, like, question
That
your...
was my next question.
And I remember when I was talking to him as we were separating, and I just said, I need you to know that I know this is terrible right now, but there is going to be somebody that can love you in a way that I never could. And, you know, he was like, I don't know about that or whatever. And you know what? It's true. He has a wonderful person in his life, and
Maggie's
Maggie,
awesome.
who just adores him. And that is so beautiful for me to see, you know, because it came true.
Yeah.
And he told me not very many months ago, it was probably 3 or 4 months ago, he said, Jenny, I really believe we both ended up exactly where we were supposed to be. And it like brought me to tears because I thought, I agree with you. And, you know, I didn't feel that way necessarily at the time when you're going through it, when you're in the messy middle of everything. But now I truly believe that. And we are good friends. We're better friends now than we ever
I agree with
have
that.
been.
Yeah.
We're closer in a way that, in a more intimate way than we
Just
ever were
the
when we were
joking
married.
and the playfulness, and you know, even at prom pictures, you had said something on the way out that Maggie had never heard before. What? Do you recall what that was?
So my ex-husband, Terry, has a way of inserting almost the right word in a sentence, which is hilarious because he'll be like, you know, one syllable off and it makes it funny. Like one time he was putting on a balaclava to go shovel snow, but he called it a baklava, which is a Greek pastry. Yes. And so, you know, or he was buying a chair with a footstool and he called it an Autobahn instead of an ottoman. So I had nicknamed him Terry Vocabulary a long time ago. So yeah, I called him Terry Vocabulary at prom pictures when he said something. And I always say, "What'd you say?" And then he won't repeat it. He'll be like, "What?"
He's like, "Oh,
what?
he'll
I'm
catch
not
himself."
repeating it. Yeah. So funny.
That's
our
great.
little inside jokes. So,
No.
and he's a great dad. to
He's a
our
great
kids.
dad.
He loves them with everything he has. He loves us all with everything he
does. It, me included. I think I've shared with you, probably not, you know, in a recorded situation, but there have been so many times, like when my mother was diagnosed with her multiple myeloma, when my dad was recently diagnosed with his prostate cancer, when we've lost, you know, when I lost Finn.
You're golden.
He is as emotional in that moment as I am, and he, you know, he cries, and he's like this big brother. He hugs you, and he doesn't let go. Like he just, you can feel how deeply that has impacted him. And
the day we put Finn to sleep, he got spleen cancer, which is a very fast-moving cancer in a dog. So he'd been not feeling good that morning, and Tina took him to the vet, and, you know, they ran blood work, which looked like pink water. Like the day unfolded, and we were calling the vet to come to our house that night to put him to sleep. Wow. And, you know, the kids were with their dad, so we, you know, called the kids and said, "Hey, you guys want to come out after school and say goodbye to Finn? And, you know, things aren't good." And so the kids had come out, and then all of a sudden a knock on the door, and it's Terry.
here's Terry.
Here he is, like
hanging out and
crying.
Finner, and he calls me Teener. called Finn Finner. And
just to be supportive.
He's just, you know, he's on the floor hugging him and, you know, loving on him and telling him what a good boy he is. And he's, you know, as frustrated as he can make me with the lack of scheduling and the commitment to a timeline and, you know, all of the things that make him Terry.
We call him Chief Running Late because he's always running late.
Yep.
So he doesn't take the medication.
He should. He sometimes takes his medication.
Remembers.
Yeah.
But God love him. You know, there's this other side that he shows up and fiercely. And you're just like, man, how do you not love a guy like that?
It's family.
I love that for you both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that to say, we
wish everybody could have that experience. You know, we know not everybody does, which I think is also not only gives us a unique perspective, but it also is a driving factor of why we show up the way that we try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we should have a part 2 to this and talk about your coming out
Yes.
next
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because I'm sure there's another question we could play.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I'm grateful that I came out at the time of life that I did, because, you know, being in my 40s, I think you have a whole different, stronger sense of who you are, of self, of, you know, some of those judgments aren't so shattering as they are to a younger person.
Right.
But it still was no picnic. You know, there were still a lot of things that I had to come to terms with. And I think the biggest thing is who gets a seat at my table, and realizing that it's that thing, like if respect isn't being served, I'm not sitting down. And that made me stronger. You know, we all go through hard things in life, and they're hard at the time, but I think we can probably all look back on those times and say we gained a lot. We gained strength, we gained self-awareness, we gained conviction. And I just decided that this love was once in a lifetime, so special that I wasn't going to let anybody ruin that for me.
And maybe one day in the future, this won't be something hard for people to do. Especially with the love, like you said, the children love, and maybe they can carry that on throughout the years, and we'll look back on this.
You hope that.
We live in a crazy time right now, you know, politically and in our world. And, you know, every time I see, you know, all these DEI initiatives being rolled back, and, you know, I just really hope that anybody who's queer out there realizes that they have value, that they are not less than for being queer.
No.
That
You don't walk it alone.
that this isn't how most people feel about
Right.
gayness or queerness or whatever.
Yep.
you know.
Legislation does not determine
No.
you as a person.
No.
Wouldn't
So
matter.
don't let that.
Right.
Yeah.
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 You are you.
And I realize that we are in a really good position, and we're blessed in so many ways. But I do think that it comes from within. And if you are okay with yourself and you're okay with who you are, people are either going to come along or they're not. And that's okay.
It is okay.
And even the people that I lost, I released them with love. I wish them well. I don't harbor any
there's no
resentments.
ill will.
I don't harbor any ill will. I just realized that, you know, circles change.
You just don't get access.
Yeah. All right. Let's give the website and the phone number.
Yes.
yeah.
Website, theunicornprojects.com. And the phone number is 844-605-LIFE, which is 5433.
Okay.
Yeah. And shameless plug, but if you follow us on the podcast, please hit the follow button to follow the show. And we would love to read a review about what you think about the show.
Yes.
Those
I
are
always-
fun.
I always
Yes.
forget that.
Good job, Jenny.
You're smart and
So
pretty.
glad you took that
Took my
medication.
meds this morning.
All right, unicorn.
Unicorn.
Thank you for tuning in to the Unicorn Projects, hosted by Amy Rose with Jenny and Tina. Music by Caroline Kilty. Produced by Russ Haddon. Engineered by Chris Jaquez. It's the Unicorn Projects on the Home Slice Audio Network.